All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar, and as always, we talk about leadership in the boutique retail world, right? We're talking wireless retail, AV sales, appliances, stuff that's not big box retail. These are more specialty areas. And today I want to talk about something that not every leader thinks about because they, one, take it for granted and they think this individual is going to always pull them out of the rut, and you lose your shit when you don't got them no more. I'm talking about your best rep and why your best rep might be killing your team's performance. Now, I've talked about this in the past where you want to elevate everybody's performance. You want to elevate everybody's skill set. You want to elevate your team by being a mentor, by being a coach, by being a leader. And that's what we want to get into. Now, if your rep is the reason why you're hitting targets, right? You're talking about maybe one or two people on your team is the reason why you're constantly actually achieving or being profitable. You're one resignation away from disaster. Now, I've had conversations like this before. One of my counterparts, one of my peers that I worked with in the past, has mentioned it where he joined a company, took over, and realized that 80% of their sales actually came from one individual. And if that individual retired because they're close to retirement age, they'd be screwed. Because what happens to his book of business if they decide, you know what, we were loyal to this individual, not to the company? What now? That's a big issue. Now, for you as an individual, as a leader, if you fall into the trap of letting your number one rep or your top reps carry your teams, it might feel good, right? Because you got less pressure, numbers look decent until that individual or those individuals get burned out. And then you're done, right? Either get burned out, they decide to check out because something happened, right? A life event, somebody passed away, a divorce, a breakup, stuff like that, right? Takes them out of the zone. What the hell's going on? Um, or they decide, you know what, I want something more because I feel like I'm stuck. I'm pigeonholed. I don't want to go into leadership because I don't want to deal with everybody's headaches, but I can't make any more money. But I got friends that work in these other areas and they're doing well. Uh, what's going to happen? Worse, if you're praising either your superstars more than focusing on training and developing the rest of your team, what's going to happen? What happens to the rest of everybody? Okay. They're coasting because they're comfortable where they're at, but they're probably going to be quitting because they're like, this leader that I have isn't training me, isn't coaching me, doesn't believe that I can become better, right? I feel like a shitty person on this team. So why am I going to be here? Now, as a true leader, you avoid that. You don't suffer the consequences of just having a superstar or a couple of superstars on your team because your entire team performs. Think about that. When your entire team performs and your worst performance is still above quota, I mean, what then? I would rather have a full team of good performers than have one or two superstar performers on my team because I don't have to worry about the performance. My good performers are always going to constantly perform, and we can work on adjusting the performance levels where I don't have to worry about anything. My store leaders don't have to worry about anything. Remember, as a district leader, as a regional director, you're in charge of an area. So, yeah, I might have one or two superstar performances or performers, and I know when they're not working because my numbers suck at those locations or my numbers suck for the day. Whereas if I have a full roster of good performers, my performance is always good. Even on a bad day, my performance is still better than everybody else's. That is what you're aiming for. That is what you do. And you get there by training, developing, coaching. That is how you do it. That is what it means to be a leader. And that's what you want to get into. Now, The other thing that you don't realize is when you rely too much on top performers and you're not training and developing the rest of your team, it kind of creates that complacency, right? They're coasting. What are they going to do? You're not training, developing them. You're not giving them the tools. Because, guys, remember, oftentimes the reason why your team doesn't take it upon themselves to get better on their own is because nobody has showed them how. Nobody has taught them how. Be the individual that teaches your team how to do that, and they will surprise you. Okay. When you start giving attention to the rest of your team, not just the individual superstar or the couple of superstars you have, you start to see that your people aren't checked out. They're involved more. They're in the zone more. Their performance is better. That's what it means. Okay. On the flip side, when you're giving your attention to just those individuals, just the top performers or the top performer, everybody else tends to have this just gonna check out mindset because you got a fuck you attitude. So fuck you too. You're not giving me anything. And that's what happens a lot of times when you see a change in leadership, where either they go from being engaged to disengaged or from being disengaged to engaged. That's the difference, is your leadership style or lack of leadership. That is strictly on you. It's not, oh, this location isn't good or these individuals aren't good. What are you doing to turn that around? That wasn't a Kamehameha, by the way. Now, the other thing to think about is why would your team push harder if they're not going to get praise on their numbers because so and so is always going to be better? Think about it. I saw this issue be through one of the parts through awards I would give out. And I would purposely look at the different KPIs and see who was best. I wouldn't look at raw numbers because I also took into consideration that some locations had more traffic than others. I did it as a weighted average or a weighted percentage, right? So based on the goal achieved, what percentage of these units is out of their entirety attained? Okay. So even though I would have a superstar or a couple superstars that have massive volume on units, their KPIs weren't always the best. And when they realized that to be considered a true superstar, you had to also have additional KPIs because they would see other people get praised, even though they weren't at their level for overall units, their KPIs were a lot more fucking solid. And as a sales leader, that's what I prefer more. As a business owner of a small business, that is what you want more of, not just individual volume on units. You want everything else that goes with it, whether it's services, warranties, protection. If we're talking wireless, right, we're talking about all the add-ons, tablets, wearables, the additional protection plans you guys have, home services. There's a lot more. And that means that is going to be a better overall sell in individual player contributor for the company than the so-called superstar that's just pushing on volume. And when the rest of the team sees that that is what we're focusing on and that they actually got play, right? They can actually play in the game and participate and get praised, and that you will put attention and focus on training and developing them, that means a lot to them because you're giving them, once again, something that they haven't had in their life before, which is somebody who gives a fuck about them, who gives a damn about what they're doing, their performance, how they're doing. It's not just work, 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 but you also know who they are as individuals. And you're showing them, I also care. I empathize for what you want in life, for what you're going through. I'm here to help you through a lot of this. Crazy, right? Think about it for yourself. When was the last time you had somebody do that for yourself? If you're a sales leader, I guarantee you did not get there on your own. You had somebody who helped mentor and train you, who guided you through the process, who actually vouched for you. That's the difference. If you're struggling to grow in a leadership role or to get into a leadership role, that is what you want to look for. But you don't wait to get into a leadership role to be able to build this out. You can take it upon yourself to learn this stuff. You have to have somebody there to help and assist and guide you through the process, right? That's typically the difference. Now, the other flip side that a lot of people sometimes understand as a leader is that your top performers, they're not necessarily team players. They don't really know how to mesh well. And that is the issue that you have when you put them into a leadership role, either because they want to get into it because they know that's the only way they're going to make more money in the organization, or you force them into it. Yes, I'm looking at you because I've seen those people. We've all seen those people. Okay. And they're not a fit. And worse, you're not going to train and develop them and guide them when they get in there. You just hope they're going to do what they're already doing on a broader scale and do that with everybody else. But guess what? They've never learned how to train, coach, and guide other people doing what they do. And the way they think is, the fuck you mean you're not doing this? This is what I do. How do you not do this? But they're going to go back to what they know, which is being an individual contributor, even though they're supposed to be a sales leader, and say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to do it myself and fuck y'all. That's the toxicity a lot of individual contributors, top performers have, and is why they suck at leadership and why you have constant failing, whether it's high churn rate, right? People asking to be rotated out of the location, um, mentally checking out when they take these, positions. I've seen it. I've been on a team like that. It was like, the fuck you mean he got promoted? Like, that is what happens. And when your team sees that too, they get disheartened. They disengage a lot more because they understand you're not going to train and develop anybody. So it it creates a toxic work environment for everybody involved. Okay. It hurts the culture because they don't have a process. They don't have a way to develop and train people. Operations always suck. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. It just happens. And that's what you want to avoid. As a leader, you have to coach. Okay. Coach on behavior, coach on performance. You do that and you'll see that you will have a culture that develops, a culture that actually becomes what you're wanting it to be, what your team prefers, what your team's wanted. That is the difference. That is how you do things. You can't just put something, slap it on a wall or a piece of paper and be like, this is our culture. That's not how it works, guys. Culture is action. So, what action are you taking to ensure it happens? That is what you want to do. And you show it by not just talking about it, but walking it, right? Now, when you do coaching, training, and developing, you're moving away from just talking to one individual. You're looking at developing the entire team because you understand the different strengths. The one thing I always loved about my teams is that I knew where the strengths and weaknesses were. And I loved to see how my team actually worked together to overcome those, where they would step in knowing that somebody was weak in a certain area, help them out, and then move on to, do what they were doing. That's what you want. And that's what you see more of. And you start seeing a lot of your top performers when they start understanding that that's a culture that you're building, they start participating more and they start wanting to train everybody else because they also want to stand out because they see that it's not just about individual numbers. It's about what we do as a team that matters. How am I contributing to the overall picture? And when they start seeing that, when they start contributing to the overall picture, that's also helping their paycheck. At the end of the day, top performers care about their fucking money more than anybody else because they have goals and plans that they've already laid out and are very serious about. And they start seeing how that actually impacts them. How when the rest of my team is also good, we have more people coming into our location because they've had a better experience. That makes a huge difference. And they start putting it together and they start saying, okay, so when they can get through a lot of this faster, it means I'm not stuck also working with, the shitty clients, shitty customers I don't want. They start seeing that rotation come in and they're like, okay, we got this. We can do this as a team. It's like if you guys are playing basketball, you can shit on the player that doesn't know how to play, or you can train them, guide them, develop them, coach them up so that they know how to interact and play within that team. And even though they may not be the top scorer, their assists, I mean, they help the entire team move forward. That's what it means to be a coach. That's what it means to be a true leader. And once again, when your team starts to see that and realize that that's what you're focusing on, that's what you're looking at, and they understand that if I want to move up into leadership role, this is actually going to make my life easier doing this, knowing this, guys, that's a difference. That is where you start to see a big change in attitudes, not just performance. You're going to see the uptick in performance, but when the attitude changes, that's a culture shift, and you start to see a lot of gains there. Your team starts to see a lot of gains there. That that makes a difference, guys. You would be surprised at what you can accomplish just by spending as little as 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a week on coaching, training, developing. You don't got to do crazy 8-hour sessions, nothing like that. Once you've gone through basic training, just like everything else, you got to upskill your skills. You got to maintain your skills. You do that by being a coach. You do that by helping transform your team. So you're not gambling on just the performance of an individual or a couple of individuals on your team. You know that the entire roster is solid, that even your worst performing individual is still a fucking superstar on anybody else's team. That's what it means. And as a leader, you start to get recognized because your fucking team is performing. You might be like, is something shady going on? It's like, nah, just focusing on training, developing. Look at the numbers, right? There's no crazy churn on the back end. There's no fraud on the back end, right? Then boom. Okay. Like this is what the fuck are you doing in that district? Why? We need to develop this everywhere else. You're doing so well at retaining your individuals. We need to do this everywhere else. That's what you want to be known for as a leader. That is where, because guys, when you get into a district manager role, a district sales position, it's not just numbers that is going to move you up. You got to look at the broader picture. Performance is part of it, yes, but retention, culture. If you're wondering why you've never been promoted from your current leadership role to the next echelon, there's a reason why. And it's the focus on training and developing that sets everybody apart. I'm not going to say that everybody has done that because obviously some people get promoted into roles because of the people that they know. But trust me, when you can train, develop, guide, mentor like a true leader, you have more opportunities for you available compared to anybody else. That's where you start to see a big difference. Stop relying on just one or couple of top performers. Build your team out. Coach consistently, and you're going to see that every level that you have on your team, every performer is going to be a true winner. You'll start seeing your underperformers have better cells, better metrics. They're going to have those quick wins that's going to build up their confidence because you coached and guided and trained them, right? Your mid-tier performers, they're going to pick up on those aha moments a lot quicker now because you're focusing in on, micro coaching sessions, chunking in pieces of information so they can actually act on it faster and retain and build those habits better than they could have before. And that moves them into that top performer. And your top performers, they're going to now move more into like leadership roles because they start to see and start to understand how a great performing team actually works better for them as individual contributors than just them focusing on what they're doing themselves and shedding everything out. And they start getting ready for that next role. Now, your leaders aren't always going to be top performers. The majority of your leaders actually are going to come from your mid-tier performers because they're more focused on making sure everything is good, either operations wise or that the rest of the team is doing solid. But when you have top performers that also take an inkling into wanting to become a better leader overall within the group, that is a solid win because then they start to understand how to train and coach others on what they do well, where they literally will do like coaching sessions outside of work. They will get together to talk about tactics, things that they've done. Guys, I'm telling you this because my teams have done this in the past. They become leaders in their own right in that respect because they see that other people want to get better because people are asking like, hey, how do you do this? You're doing so well, how can I become? And so, all right, cool, we'll talk about that after work. I was shocked when I heard them talking about that. And when those numbers for those other individuals improved, I was like, fuck. And they're like, yeah, so and so, right? D fucking showed me how to do this. And it was super easy. I didn't know I could do it this way. Because, guys, your voice is only one of, many. And the way that you speak, obviously, you have to learn how to be able to coach and speak to others, right? Because you got to, I've talked about this before. The way you coach and train, mentor, speak to one individual is not going to be the same for another. The information they take away, even though you say the exact same thing, is going to be different. And when they understand that, okay, other individuals actually relate to me a little bit better and they understand the information you're giving them. So when they tell me, it actually makes more sense. That becomes solid, a solid foundation for true leadership. That is what you want to get to. That makes a huge difference in the way your team's overall performance is going to be. And then you start seeing those future leaders start developing on their own. And you're like, damn, I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to worry as much about performance. Making sure my team is solid by giving them what they need, the support that they need, by being this coach on the sideline. As a district sales manager, as a regional, as an executive, you should never be the fucking quarterback of the team. That is not your role. If you're the quarterback, you're fucking the team up. You're not letting them actually get their true potential or get to their true potential. You are literally holding them back. So, coach, train, develop your team like a real coach does, and you will become a true leader. Now, y'all know, as always, take a look at the link in the bio, grab, the link in the description, and use that coaching framework to help your team. It looks super simple. It's designed to be easy for just about anybody to be able to pick up and run with it. And once you master it, within 15-minute coaching sessions, you can help turn around performances like crazy. So take a look at it, grab it. Let me know what you guys think. Once again, thanks for stepping into another episode of the Sales Manager Podcast. I'm Omar, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.